Hello everyone, and welcome to another segment of Going Within Wednesdays with your host, Jen Cusumano. And welcome. For this segment, I do a little talk on some themes that are coming up in my life and in the lives of some people that I'm closest to. And I'm also seeing them as like a collective theme as well. I just love how when things are kind of beginning to crop up or come up for awareness, it's not only happening in our own lives, but it's often happening to people on a bigger scale. And so I just love how synchronistic life is and how life overall is so interconnected in that way. And so for a little bit of a deep dive, you'll see by the title of the episode, it is called Alice Through the Looking Glass. And Alice in Wonderland was coming up for me as a story and the themes within it. And so I did a bit of a deep dive into it, and actually it was really neat just how rich the story is, the history behind it, and like the different themes within the book itself and in the film, and the various films and how they differ. So if this sort of thing is of interest, please stay tuned and enjoy this deep dive for Going Within Wednesday, segment 2. Hello everyone. So something I'm really wanting to speak to today is a theme I'm seeing cropping up collectively. And I thought at first it was just something, clarity coming through for me, or like certain themes or ideas coming up for me. And also that I felt one of my best friends, who's my roommate, I felt like she could definitely relate to as well. Had to do with this energetic shift, this whole, and it's interesting because it's an energetic shift taking place on the planet, but it's so much more than that. And I'm just trying to find the words and how to concisely say this without, going in a million different directions. So for any of you who are on a conscious spiritual path, you are aware of the ascension process that we are ramping up to. We're essentially receiving a lot of light codes. We are in that process raising in frequency and vibration, and our DNA is upgrading and we are becoming more crystalline. And this is all a part of the ascension process, but we haven't necessarily been through the great solar flash and moved into as a human collective. And we haven't had the great solar flash event yet. So we are receiving so much of these solar flares and geomagnetic storms that are shifting things. And so the themes that were coming up, it's so funny because I saw a friend wearing a week or so ago, I guess it was probably a couple weeks ago now, sometime within the last couple weeks, I saw her wearing a Alice in Wonderland t-shirt, and I've just always loved that movie and the story of Alice in Wonderland. And I complimented her on her shirt. I was like, I used to have an Alice in Wonderland t-shirt in high school, but I think I outgrew it, or I got stains on it, or something happened. So many clothes I used to have in high school I missed. It's funny because some of them I feel like I've tried or put an effort into replacing. Now that it's 20 years later, which is kind of amusing. But anyway, I've digressed. So I complimented her on the shirt, and I told her that I'd been looking at Alice in Wonderland shirts, and then I went ahead and pulled the trigger, and I got one from basically an online thrifting website, Poshmark, and I got it for a really good deal. It was $10. Brand new, by the way, with tags. Just really cute. And I think I wore it to work on Friday. It was just fun. And it's interesting because all day Friday I listened to a playlist that I'd found and saved for me to listen to the next day. Like I did this playlist, YouTube video playlist on Thursday night so that I would have something to listen to in my free moments while cleaning at work. And so I did on Friday, and it was actually, I listened to a good many of them, and probably about 4 of the videos were just really, really well done and really spoke to me. And it's just interesting because I just listened to a video by Lee Harris on the energy update for the collective for June 2026. And I swear, I always deeply resonate with Lee's videos, and he's a very, I don't know, he's just got a gentle, healthy, masculine spirit, and I just really appreciate what he shares. And his guides clearly are aligned with truth, because like I'm experiencing these things, and I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be on my path. I know that I'm following God's will and like a Christed path as best as I can. And so I just feel like his stuff is really supportive. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling a bit. What he spoke to today was one of the major themes, or the major theme for the month of June 2026 is the feminine fire rising. And I guess not to piggyback on him, but, you know, to speak to the theme, because for me, this is something I'm witnessing, I think, myself in certain regards. And it's funny because he was saying that in this process of, well, that was one theme, and then his last theme was, it's so funny because I literally just spoke to or connected with my creativity spirit guide, whose name is Lily. And I connected with her over the weekend and was able to get some beautiful messages from her. Pretty sure it was over the weekend. It was either that or Wednesday. But regardless, within recent days, I did that. And I think what I did was I got I spoke with her in spirit. You know, I read her energy and got the messages from her on Wednesday, but then I went over them over the weekend with my friends, just sharing some of it, which was always nice. And so one of the things she brought forward for me, it's so funny, like literally just Wednesday, the theme that I was brought was the, because it's so funny because my spirit guides always like bring things up that I can use as like, or something that I would understand, or bring things like references that I would get to make their points. And the point was something to do with, like, I saw a Bridgerton scene in my head, and it wasn't an actual scene, but it was just like two of the characters in an imaginary scenario where Colin and Penelope from Bridgerton were having a conversation, and Colin was saying, your costume is too small, like your costume. Yeah, like, so, and it was really interesting because I didn't really think about it or understand the significance until over the weekend when I was discussing it. And literally, I kid you not, literally, Lee Harris, for the June 6th, or I don't know, the 6th, the 7th and final theme for the month was was it like a body that had changed and the clothes no longer fit. Like, the wording I'm getting wrong, but having outgrown your clothes. And I'm like, this is remarkable, because that's what I had received for a message, that I have outgrown my old masks, or the old costume, the old conception of self, and I was shedding what no longer served me and shedding who I no longer am. And it's just interesting because, circling back to Alice in Wonderland themes, it's very much about identity and the female identity, and women learning who they are, young women going through all these changes. And it's like they're going through puberty. Like, basically it's talking about puberty and becoming a woman, and how to face society and societal expectations in the Victorian era. Like, those were the themes present in the story, because it was definitely written in the Victorian era. And women and girls had all this, these societal expectations put upon them. And so basically it was just that, like, in the beginning of the story, Alice was doing what she was told, although she was rebelling against it. She was curious and wanted to explore for herself, and kind of wanted to do, like, I think it was like more of like a subconscious, like a reflection of like subconscious desires and curiosity and wanting to go against the grain and to, do things her own way and find her own way. And through this story of rebellion and questioning authority and questioning the status quo and wanting to like understand why things are the way they are and just kind of learn who you are and learn how to grow and how to make decisions for yourself and speak up for yourself. And in the end, she was able to make decisions for herself that were her own. And she just had a good head on her shoulders. Like she kind of figured out so many things and had gone on an adventure in the process. And so I like to look at life in that way, is that that's what we're doing. Like you could say that, okay, the puberty, growing up, that young people go through many changes and you're like in a body that's no longer the same, but it's, you're changing day to day and you don't even know who you are anymore. And so really the ascension process is very much like this, and we are integrating more light. A lot of our shadows and wounding is coming up to the surface. It's being pulled up energetically, and so stuff's coming to the surface for our awareness and to be healed and cleared. And it's overwhelming because there's so many negative influences in the world and agendas at play to try to limit or prevent this human and global ascension of the earth and of humanity. And transhumanism and smart cities and AI and just oversaturation of so many things that are detrimental. So I just think that it's just interesting because it really much aligns up with the moon cycles we just went through. Like we had the moon in Virgo, and then it moved into Libra, which was more about, so it went from like self-care, taking care of the practical day to day. And then last week it moved into Libra, which is about finding a balance, a balance between the practical and the logical and like the feeling and the doing and all of that. And then we moved into we just had a full moon in Scorpio yesterday, I believe it was, over the weekend. And I think the moon is now going to be moving into Ophiuchus, and that's all about alchemy and alchemizing and bringing about change through processing and turning base metals into gold. So taking what we've been through and learning from it and feeling what we need to feel and processing, and then releasing what doesn't serve us and just letting all that energy go. And so it's so funny because it very directly mirrors like what's going on in my home, like my roommate going through this, because her mother just, my roommate recently, not to get into crazy details, but my roommate has gone no contact with her mother because she discovered back in the beginning of the year that her mother had really just been super abusive. And I think it just hit her one day, like, my mother is a narcissist. And she like looked it up and researched it. And she's like, yes, the way she's been treating me, the way she's been speaking to me, and the way that I've grown up around this, like I didn't even know it until now. But she's like, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. And she decided to go no contact after recognizing the narcissistic abuse and, deep unconsciousness that leads to those behaviors on her mother's behalf. And so she moved in with me, and this was just something that we've kind of discovered in recent months. And I needed, I needed a roommate and to support me financially, and she needed to get out of her mom's living space. So really, this has just been wonderful for both of us. It's definitely a change. It's new, but also kind of exciting and nice to have a buddy around and to be there for one another. And in recent months, like back in February, before all the stuff with her and her mother, my friend and her mother happened, I did a rose ceremony, and I connected with the spirit of rose, the rose deva, and really, I just felt it was really beautiful. And I learned like the origins of the rose, which is from the planet Venus. And I saw like the trajectory in the sky that the Venus planet creates geometrically, and it's called the flower of Venus or the rose of Venus. And I learned also, because Magnolia has been coming up for us since probably March, I just made this connection about what the symbolism of Magnolia was, because I had a Magnolia picture I took back in 2013 up on the wall in my bathroom, but I wanted to get a nice canvas piece of an artwork that had flowers on it for the bathroom, because I was sprucing the place up to get it ready for my roommate to move in. And I chose a piece, some magnolias in a vase, in a vase. And it's beautiful, and it's interesting. I was like, okay, let's just for shits and giggles look into this. Like, what does magnolia symbolize? And I was blown away that I had connected with this flower back in 2013 when going through a divorce and starting to go back to school and figuring out who I was and overcoming a difficult time. And then my friend moving in was like a new beginning for her and overcoming a difficult time and unhealthy relationships. And it's all about love and the yin energy and harmony and harmonious relationships and dignity, grace, self-respect, strength and softness at the same time. Just the symbolism was uncanny, and it's wild that I made this connection. And so I even dialed up, I call it dialing up, when I connect to the energy or spirit or consciousness of something, and I dialed up just like I did with the rose ceremony. I did a dial-up of Magnolia and connected with Magnolia and got so much beautiful insight with regards to why Magnolia is coming up for us and why, it's a potent spirit ally for us at this time. And also, I heard the name Jasmine come up in one of my readings as well. And Jasmine is very tied to the feminine and sensuality and the feminine healing and that. So I just think it's really beautiful seeing these themes unfold in my life and in the collective. And one thing I didn't mention, but when I did that rose ceremony, I actually had the name Mariposa come forward, and I wasn't sure what that was referring to. I was like, I guess it's a Spanish name that means butterfly, which is really beautiful and symbolic in itself, because it's the first tattoo I ever got was a butterfly, and I just knew I needed that symbol. It was important for me to embrace change and not be afraid of growth. And also there's like a tribal design and then 3 stars around the butterfly, which is interesting because I have a friend group. It's me and my 2 soul sisters. So sis stars, it's just wild that we were making this connection and doing this women's work and having this sisterhood that I desperately wanted, a sisterhood friend group a few years ago. And I feel like it's beautiful that God has given us each other, and that I recognize that my tattoo literally like symbolizes 3 stars around the butterfly. It's like we're going through this journey together. And then also Mariposa, by the way, if I didn't say this already, it's the name of my love guide. I did some digging and I asked if Mariposa was the name of a spirit guide, and I got a yes, and so I was able to connect with her. And so I've connected with a creativity guide named Lily, my love guide named the Mariposa, with a abundance guide back in like December or January. Her name's Melissa. And then I met a whale guide named Shifu, which means master in Chinese, apparently. It's just remarkable. I've connected with so many guides, and it's not something I've ever spent a ton of time doing, but I have from time to time. And back in like September or October last year, I learned that my Reiki guide's name is Jade, and I gave my friend, my roommate, a Reiki attunement to Reiki level 2, and she discovered that one of her new guides' names was Jade months ago. And I went ahead and explored and asked intuitively, like, is this guide? I reached out to Jade and said, I reached out to my Reiki guide and asked for their name, and I got Jade, and it looks like we share a Reiki guide. So it's just beautiful. It's interesting. 1717 was just on the timer when I looked down. 17 is one of the numbers that my friend group has, 317 specifically. But gotta love those number syncs. And at any rate, I just wanted to pass on this message that we are so deeply loved and seen and held and cared for by spirit. Everything's interconnected in this tapestry of life. We all have a thread, and life going through so much right now. We are going through so much collectively on this planet, but we are all here for it. We're all part of this unfoldment, this journey, this experiment, this process. And I wish you all the best in this, and I hope that you enjoyed this little talk. And yes, please take care of yourselves. Spend time in nature, drink lots of water, get adequate rest, and take time to go within and reflect and journal. Do anything that really gets you in touch with your body and gives you that space to be conscious of where you're at on your journey, because I just think being self-aware is so needed and so important for us to be embodied and be present. And so, yeah, with that, I will say goodbye for now. Sending you lots of love. So briefly circling back to that talk on Alice in Wonderland, I just wanted to kind of do a little recap and maybe flesh it out a little more, or like bring even further elucidation to the ideas. And it's like, I think collective, macro, but also micro. I'm seeing it in myself, I'm seeing it in my roommate, and I'm seeing it collectively. So it's really, really cool if you're paying attention, or if you're just, listen to that intuition, pay attention to themes, the signs, and what's coming up for you. Because when you do, if you jot it down or take note, I'm telling you, it's remarkable how many things line up and are basically showing, hey, this is something, like archetypal, or, these themes are at play energetically. So for me, I've entered a new phase. Like, I think in recent months, I exited one phase of my life, and I'm now on a new chapter. You could call it middle adulthood. I don't call myself middle age. I kind of think when you're in your like 50s and older, like mid 40s to late 50s, that's kind of middle age. I'm in reality, I guess you could say late 30s is middle age on average, but I'm not looking at average. I want to live to be old, so I don't really want to look at it that way. But yeah, I'm in a new phase of my life, and I'm in a new light body. Like, my physical vessel is holding more light than it used to. I looked down just a moment ago and it said 144 as I was saying more light. So that's pretty fun. I'm holding more light. I've grown, and I'm in a new phase of life. Like, I found probably sometime last summer, I found my first gray hair, and I yanked it out, but then I was like, I'm going to keep this, and I stuck it in like one of my journals with tape, and I was like, I'm going to just have it as a scrapbook, because you know what? This is showing I'm getting a bit older. I'm going through, I'm aging. I'm going through life. I don't think I'd even yet turned 37, but I'm now going to be turning 38 in August. So yeah, the wheel of life continues, and you know what? I was like, I earned that right here. I've been through a lot, and in a way, it's like a rite of passage. And so I've noted that and felt it was really worth paying attention to. And there's so much other stuff symbolically in recent months in the past year, So this whole theme of Alice is really interesting. It's like, okay, learning how much of the cookie do you eat, or how much of the drink do you drink, and how much, do you trust what you're being told to eat and drink. And it's basically like, there's a lot we're being fed it collectively right now, and how much of it are you going to take? And then also just kind of like figuring things out for yourself, like what's the happy medium for you, what helps you take care of you, and how do you want to be in the world. If your costume's too big, like what the intuitive image in my mind from my creativity guide said, my costume is too big. That means who I'm meant to be, or who my soul is here to be. I'm outgrown the old role, the old costume, the old commitments or roles I was playing, and now I'm here to, and then it's coming in a big way. Like, I know I'm outgrowing the roles and commitments that I have in my life, like my job. But I'm grateful that I have it for the now, and that it's a good fit on some levels, but that I'm outgrowing it, and I guess that in itself is a blessing. So, yeah, like,
I think that we could use this theme, like, okay, who are we? What are our values? What do we stand for? What will we not allow? Like, learning to navigate life and be clear about who we are and what we're, we have to know who we are and what our values are to take steps in the direction of where we're called to go and where we're wanting to move in, to have some sense of direction. Specifically, the whole message the Cheshire Cat gave Alice, and the story was, and it is now 4:44 on the timer. She was saying to the Cheshire Cat, I want to get somewhere, and he was like, well, where do you want to go? She's like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And he's like, well, if it doesn't really matter, then anywhere will get you somewhere. And so it was just a really neat thing that came up in one of the YouTube videos discussing this theme, this thing that the Cheshire Cat brought forward. And it's that if we don't have any idea of where we want to go, then any direction will do. And so but once we know who we are and where we want to go, we'll know internally with our internal compass when something is off. We have to trust it. We have to learn to heed those inner signals. And so it's just neat that as you age in life and as you grow and change and become more of who you really are and shed all of the things that you aren't and release those masks and all of that, you become more able to fearlessly stand in who you are and be embodied and pursue the damn thing, to do what you're here to do, and to know your path and to just be willing to go where God leads. And I think that's important. 555. So I was just finishing that thought. So with that, for now, I'm going to close and proceed and do some other things. But I hope that you might take some time and to do some self-inquiry. Like, who am I? What are my values? What life do I want? What, lifestyle do I want? What makes me me? Down to growing and changing at a rapid pace. 1 minute we're big, 1 minute we're small. There's aspects of ourselves that are big, that we might be afraid of, and then there's aspects that might feel small, our inner child, and then how can we reparent or nurture those parts of ourselves that are afraid, but how can we pursue what we're here to do, and this and that. So I hope some of these thoughts may have been, percolate the brain a little bit. So with that, for now, I will step out.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that deep dive on the energetic themes coming up. For me personally and collectively, that tie in with the story of Alice in Wonderland. I hope that you found it interesting, and please let me know in the comments. Please leave a comment or create a dialogue. I would love that, to know if you resonate. Wherever it is you're listening from, please like, comment, and subscribe if you would. It helps other people find the podcast who may also resonate and enjoy this content. So please, if you have something you'd like to share, or that this brought to mind, or if you relate to the content or the topic of discussion, please feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And with that, thank you so much for listening. Sending you guys so much love and hugs, and until the next one, bye bye for now.